Pao was driving him and his friend Fang back to their hotel after attending a party. They had music playing on the radio as they drove. It was around 2 a.m. and they were an hour away from their hotel. They had to go through a dark stretch of forest with barely any streetlights. Most of them were dead, and the ones that did work were practically useless since the trees were so dense. The forest was also really foggy, which they didn't anticipate on the way back. One of the chicks I met at the party was telling me how this stretch of the highway was supposedly haunted. She said no one drives through it at night, Fang said. "How'd y'all come to that conversation?" asked Pao. "I told her where we were headed, and she suggested we leave during the day," Fang replied. Pao laughed. "Bro, maybe she was hinting something at you." "Nah, didn't think she was feeling me. But she was serious about this highway, though." "I guess you never know, but I wouldn't want to be stuck out here. It's dark as hell," responded Pao. About 15 minutes later, Fang complained that he needed a bathroom break. Pao secretly needed a break, so he pulled over to the side of the road. Fang focused on a single point on the ground as the warm content jetted out of him, splattering onto his target. His body trembled involuntarily with instant relief. A few feet away, Pao was doing the same thing. They both faced away from the road toward the trees. Fang looked up when he heard a twig snap from somewhere in the dark. He looked back down when he didn't hear anything suspicious except for the wind blowing on the leaves. A rustling sound snapped his attention back to the darkness. The rustling got closer and louder. Fang couldn't pinpoint it, but guessed it was probably no more than 20 feet away. As his eyes adjusted to the darkness, he could see the silhouette of a person making its way quickly toward them. The posture of the figure looked unnatural. Its shoulder was slumped to one side, and it appeared to have a limp. Fang's eyes widened as he felt a knot in his throat. His heart accelerated. Without even realizing it, he started to back away slowly, no longer aiming where he once was. A stream of urine trickled onto his pant leg and crotch, but he was oblivious to what had transpired, as his attention focused on the figure closing in on him and his friend. Pao was still peeing, unaware of what was going on until he saw Fang acting strangely. "The hell are you doing, dude?" Pao asked. Hearing his friend's voice snapped him back to reality, and he yelled, "Ghost! Run!" "What?" Pao saw his friend turn and raced back to their car. He cursed as the warm liquid sprayed onto his hand when he rushed to zip up mid-piss. It drizzled down his leg and shoes. Pao ran around to the driver's side, while Fang stuffed himself halfway in. "Go, go, go! Drive!" Fang yelled before Pao was even in the car. The car was parked and still idling. Pao opened the door and swung it closed behind him. He quickly put the car in drive and floored it. "What the hell did you see?" Pao asked his friend, who kept frantically looking behind them. "A ghost! I saw a ghost!" Fang cried. "You sure about that?" asked Pao. "Yes. I only saw the outline of the thing. It was coming straight for us. The body was all twisted, and it walked with a limp. It didn't look natural at all." "How much did you drink? You're probably just seeing stuff," Pao said. "I know what I saw. That shit was real," Fang yelled. "If you say so." Pao was still annoyed for wetting himself. His damp clothing and the smell that came with it did not help matters. Neither man told the other about their own accidents, and didn't speak much after that. About 10 minutes later, the radio started cycling back and forth through different channels by itself. One moment, it was a man singing in Spanish, then static. After that, it was Justin Timberlake, "Cry Me a River." Then came an advertisement for some dealership neither men have heard of. "The hell's wrong with this thing?" Pao said, trying to turn off the radio. "It's the ghost. The ghost is doing it. It must have followed us," responded Fang. "Dude, I don't know what happened to you, but you're acting really crazy right now," Pao said, still trying helplessly to turn off the radio. It was still surfing randomly through different channels. After a moment of static silence, the radio stopped, The LED letters on the console where the listed station usually was read, "Help Me," in capital letters. The familiar melody of Lu Ya's "Life of an Orphan," Lu Ning Onjua, came on, but it was in a woman's voice. Pao tried hard to keep his eyes on the road, but he couldn't help but constantly glance back at the console. As the song continued, the singing stopped and was replaced by weeping. Fang's eyes were glued to the console in anticipation and fright. His friend's calm exterior gave way to panic. "The fuck is going on?" Pao asked no one in particular. He glanced at his friend to see how he was doing. "You alright, dude?" Fang started to cry hysterically. "Something bad is happening, like really bad." "Dude, nothing's gonna happen, just calm down," Pao said. He was really trying to convince himself. "We need to get out of here, man. There's something really wrong with this forest." Pao tolerated his friend's strange behavior for far too long and was fed up. He then shouted at Fang, "Shut the fuck up. You're starting to freak me out." Fang shot back, "Man, fuck you." The men began arguing. Pao took his eyes off the road for just an instant during the fight. In that moment, the apparition of a bloody Asian woman suddenly appeared in front of them. Pao saw the woman at the last second and yanked the steering wheel to dodge her, only to realize too late they were going against the curvature of the road at 80 miles per hour. A huge tree clipped the front passenger side of the car, causing it to spin even more out of control. The car launched into the air, crashing upside down into a ditch off the side of the road. The men blacked out from the impact almost instantly. When Pao and Fang came to, they were a bloody mess. The men were in pain from head to toe and couldn't focus on one source over the other. Pao could barely see as his eyes were drowning in a sea of blood from the injuries to his head. He wiped the blood from his eyes, only to be blinded again by a vision of red over and over. Pao was finally able to stand up after what seemed like hours of failed attempts. But he realized something strange was going on. Everywhere he looked was at the wrong angle. Fang suffered from a similar predicament. They were horrified at the sight of one another. One couldn't imagine how the other was able to stand, let alone still be alive. It took a moment, but they realized they were in the middle of the forest. Their car had vanished, and they were surrounded by several dozen people who were in the same condition as them, if not worse. The only exception being the woman they saw before they blacked out. Her body radiated with a warm, glowing light. "You! It was you who did this to us!" Pao shouted, pointing a bloody finger towards her. "What the fuck happened? The fuck did you do to us? And who are these fuckers?" Fang yelled, demanding answers. Tears rolled down the woman's cheeks. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. But this was the only way I can move on from this place. This forest is cursed. It's evil and filled with death. The only way I can go on is if I find someone else to replace me here. I'm really sorry, and I wish I could help, but I don't have much time." The light emanating from her intensified, blinding everyone around her. Then, in a blink of an eye, she disappeared, and everything was dark again. Upon hearing the woman's words, the two men fell on their knees and wailed. Their emotions mixed in anger, frustration, and sadness, numbing their physical pain. But no one would hear them, but the forest and the damned.